here today with Crea Arnold. Crea, can you tell us where you were born and where you were raised?
I was born in Shippensburg in September 7th, 1922.
All right. And did you grow up there in
I
Shippensburg?
was about 7 years old when we moved to Carlisle on the first farm off of Wagner's Gap Road.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's now a bed and breakfast.
Oh,
Of course, we had cattle and chickens and turkeys, and
so that's where you grew up then, on that farm mostly.
Charles and I was married, and we lived there. They put a 3-bedroom house on, and
On the farm.
it was a big brick house. And we farmed there for, probably about 10 years after we were married. Because Dad and Mother had got too old and they couldn't handle it themselves.
Okay. Now, were you going to Second Presbyterian Church at that time, or did you go to a different church in town?
It went by a different name up there, Shippensburg, and I don't remember what it was.
So do you remember when you started going to Second Presbyterian? Was that before you were married or after you were?
Charles went first, and then I went afterwards.
So did you grow up, were you Presbyterian even in Shippensburg?
Yes.
Okay.
But it went by a different name up there. I think there's a, Focus Owners crematory, I think they go by now.
Oh, okay, okay. Do you remember when you started going to Second Pres at all? Do you remember anything about?
I don't remember. Charles went first, and of course, I still took care of Mom some.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, I went there, and I had on that paper there, on the church nursery and the Sunday school. May Noggle was my assistant in Sunday school. I had her as my assistant.
Is that Gretchen Noggle's mother-in-law?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, okay. So you
That's Mark's, that was Mark's mother.
and so the two of you worked together. You teaching Sunday school or in the
I
child?
was the main one, and I had cribs in the Sunday school, and then I would go down after church and get the sheets and bring them home and launder them, and we were the first ones there.
You want to have this stuff, any of this stuff in your lap would help.
I have it on there
Oh,
that
okay.
you can probably.
Okay, so we can hold on to that. So you were sort of in the nursery for some.
Yeah, it was the nursery at that time. And the Sunday school and the church was two separate. They were not together.
Two separate buildings?
No, well, that little one is built on there at the side,
Oh, okay.
on,
In this picture? No.
but no, I mean, the Sunday school was entirely separate in financials and everything
Oh.
from the church.
Okay. Okay.
And I had the Sunday school. It's that little building that was in between there.
Okay.
And I had 3 cribs and probably about 12 children. And May Noggle was the one that I had to help me.
How long did you do that? Do you remember? Do you have any idea?
I think I have it, might have it on that one paper there.
So
That was Charles was my husband.
right. So were you were the director of Christian Ed
That's
with
Al.
with Al Spears.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And Charles was the treasurer. Do you remember anything in particular about the old church? The way, I know you have a picture here of the sanctuary. Do you remember when they decided that they wanted to move the church to a different location?
Oh boy, I didn't think. I've got all that in there, but I didn't think to get all that out.
But how did you feel about it when they were making that decision?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I loved the old church.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And my boys, then I had the church nursery for probably about at least 8 years. And Charles took the boys over to church with him.
Okay.
And I had the church nursery, and a lot of the same children that was in the Sunday school was in the church nursery,
Okay.
including my baby at that time.
Okay. Okay.
And, yeah.
Who else do you remember from the old church? People, personalities. Al Spears, I guess, was one of them that you.
Well, I had one picture there of. I think there it is. Is that
Oh, yeah. Who are those people?
They were very, very active in the old church, and she taught Sunday school, and he had different officers up as her husband.
And what was their name?
It's on there.
Woodworth.
Uh,
Woodworth. Is that your doorbell?
That's probably the mailman. Excuse me. I treat them every once in a while.
Well, no wonder they're good to you.
That would probably be interesting too.
Yeah. So they pulled the steeple when after they moved the church over to Garland. Then that's when did they just tear down the old church? So this picture, what is this picture showing?
There's the part where they brought down the steeple.
Mm-hmm. And that's it hitting the.
Yeah, it was.
So they just pulled it down.
They had more than to pull it. They worked for the best part of a day to get that steeple down. They said that it wasn't stable, but boy, when they come to take it down, and Dick did have one of the lights, and then he finally sold it.
Oh, one from the sanctuary, one of these.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I remember you had said.
But that was the steeple that was on top of the church.
Wow.
Right there it is where they took it down.
Oh my. Oh my.
That would probably be interesting to him.
Yeah. Okay. I'll show that. Well, after they moved over to Garland, did you?
They took our Sunday school from us and put it in with the church.
Ah, okay.
And see, this was in Sunday school here where Charles had all that.
Okay. So that was before the move.
Oh, yes. That was when we were down on South Hanover Street. And Al Spears was one of the first ones that I met when they come from Newcomer, because our come in off of South Hanover Street. There was it shows the door on one of that picture. It shows the door on one of the pictures.
Okay.
It's probably on.
I don't see
There
it here.
was
but-
so many papers that I had that
Yeah.
I didn't get them all out for I didn't think you'd want all
Yeah,
of
well,
them.
that's okay. Now, once they moved, did you continue to work in the church nursery after they moved?
No.
No.
No,
That's when you.
it was down
Retired.
on South Hanover Street.
Okay.
And our door went right in off of South Hanover Street, and Al and his 3 kids come in. And of course, our desk was right inside of the door.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Charles, but we had our separate account, and I probably have some of the books up in the attic yet with the records and
Mhm.
everything in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of them in there of the different ones of these.
Mhm.
And when they moved and when they took the vote, the first vote didn't pass.
Oh.
And then they took another vote.
Who was the pastor when they decided to move? Was Mike Ferguson the
If you
pastor?
look in the paper, it'll tell you.
Schaefer? Ferguson.
It was
Oh.
probably Davis that was then.
Okay.
And nobody knows much about that either. Reverend Davis was our minister, and he wanted to further his education, so he went to Scotland. And that's how we had Hutchison for Dick says 9 months.
Okay.
But it was somewhere, he stayed around here and visited them. But he come over here and took as our minister while Davis went to Scotland to further his education. And then, of course, he come back.
Where did Hutchison live while he was here? Did he live in the Davis's house?
I think he lived in one of the houses on South Hanover Street. But the manse to the house was out on South Hanover Street on the left-hand side. I know it exactly when I see it.
Mhm.
But nobody knows that that was our first manse to the Second Presbyterian Church. And then after they sold it, I wish I'd have got, well, I had about 15 of them, so I didn't think you wanted all them. And then they sold that manse out there and bought the one on Parker Street. And that's when Reverend Ferguson was the first one to move in that, 111 Parker Street.
Oh, okay.
But the original manse was out on South Hanover Street on the left-hand side. It's a pretty big house.
Is it before where you get onto 81? Is it in closer to
It would have
town?
been across from on this side of Wendy's. It was in this side,
Oh.
about a half a block on this side of Wendy's.
Okay. On the left.
And it was on the left-hand side.
Okay.
And that's when they sold that then, and they bought the one at 111 Parker Street.
Okay.
And Ferguson was the first one to live in that.
Okay. Now, did Hutchison live in the manse while he was here?
I think he lived more in just different houses or some people's houses he
Oh.
was around. He was a very, very nice man.
How was he? I think. How was he was he difficult to understand with his Scottish?
We had no trouble understanding him.
Yeah.
He was very, very good, and he had pretty good sermons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I missed a lot of them, but
Yeah.
I
Did
mean,
he have his family with him, or did he come?
No.
No.
just by himself.
Okay. Let's see. The other thing I wanted, if you could talk a little bit about where you used to work in town. I know you and Carol are friends from work. You worked together for a long time. Can you tell Blair about where you worked?
I didn't work till after I retired, And then I went to Cochran and Allen's hardware store,
Okay.
which is now the bank. And I was there till 86. I guess it was about 18 years, and I retired.
Which bank is it now?
It's not a bank now, but I don't know what it is.
Oh, okay. Where was it? It was on.
It was where Cochran and Allen's used to be.
Okay. What street was that? Do you remember?
18, I think that was 18 South Hanover Street.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Dennis Stoddard was a salesman, and he is the one that bought it. And was no interest whatsoever in a hardware store. It all fell to me.
So he bought it from after
He bought it.
Okay. Okay. While you were working there.
While I was working there.
Okay.
And Crea Arnold, which Carol Williams would know, Crea Arnold was the one that was the manager when Dennis bought it. And then he sold out. And Casey had it. Lester Casey. Whoa, almost forgot his first name. I had all the bookkeeping to do, did the payroll and everything. And his home was in Ohio. And at Christmas he'd say, Crea, I'm going out home, you can take care of things. And when they broke in the store, so I called him and I said, Dennis, they broke the back window. They broke the knob off the safe. It was one of them great big old safes. And I said, I can't get any money out. I said, can you come down? He said, you know what to do. And he never did come down. So I happen to know most of them down at the, I forget what they call that bank, down there below the square.
Gosh.
Farmers Trust?
I'd have to go back and look, I forget now. But Jay McBride was one that worked down there.
Okay.
So I said to Aline Mahoney, what am I going to do? I've got 2 registers and I can't open them. I don't have any money. I said, well, I'm going down to the bank. So I went down to the bank, and they all knew me down there because I'd make the deposits, you see. So Jay was there, and I talked to him and one of the other girls, and I said, I gotta have some money. I can't open the safes. And I said, I can't use either register for I have no money. How much do you need? I said, if I have $200, $100 and $1 bills and change, I said, I think I can make it. And it will be back Monday morning. Because I had to sign for it under my name. Cochran and Allen's, and my name is secretary. So they gave me $200, and I went back and I put $100 in each cash register. And that's what I started with. Monday morning, I said, Dennis, I have $200 that I have to take back to the bank, and I promised it to be back. Well, can't you stall them off? I said my signature's on there, and I promised them the money would be back, and it's going. So I took $200 back, and I got credit.
Did he ever open the safe for you?
He couldn't, they broke the knob.
Oh.
It was one of them with a great big knob on it. There was a picture of one in the paper, just identical. too, but
Yeah.
well, that's what it was. It had a great big knob on, and you had to. So, but I was there for 18 years.
And that's where you retired then?
That's where I retired from.
Okay. You mentioned to me that you did something out at the 2 Mile House. What were you just helping somebody out there when they were cleaning it out, or?
That was Betty Thrush
Okay.
and myself. That I had that picture earlier, and do you think I could find it last night? No, sir. It was one of the activities there, and Betty and I served refreshments and drinks.
Oh, okay.
I'll find it sometime.
Okay.
But no, we worked there, and I could describe that old house pretty darn good.
Was that before before Mrs. King died, or was that after?
That was when she was living.
She was still living there.
And there was a big open fireplace in that kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to go in the door from, well, the kitchen door.
Mm-hmm.
And Betty and I both had a key. And then there was a living room and a dining room. But this great big open fireplace, I can just visualize that. And it was as cold as thunder in the winter. It was a great big open fireplace.
I think it's still there.
And her husband had died, McLean King, and she lived there then a good bit by herself, and she was very active in everything.
Okay. Do you have anything?
And had a lot of activities there.
Okay.
I remember it very well because I got bit by the dang cat.
Oh.
Betty and I was taking things from the kitchen out to the garage that she didn't want to put out there. We were doing fine till the old cat come up the back and bit me. And then I had to go get a tetanus shot. And they did a lot of remodeling in the house now. I probably wouldn't know it now.
I think the big fireplace is still there, and yeah, it would probably be fun for you to see it.
The front is about the same, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's an old house, I'll tell you. Betty's deceased now.
Oh, okay.
She died about 3 years ago, I guess. But no, Betty and I worked for her and would do things that she wanted and such like.
Yeah.
Crea, you mentioned that you moved to Carlisle when you were 7. I'm just wondering what Carlisle was like as a child.
Carlisle was very active downtown. There was big Woolworth store down there on the left side, and there was a shoe store down there, and there was a big clothing store. In fact, Wardecker still has the clothing store. It's at the corner of Lowther Street, Lowther and Hanover. There's something in there now, but then next to it was Wardecker's clothing store. And if you wanted to see some old antiques, have you ever been in it?
I have not.
It would be because Fred Wardecker worked there, and he lives over here on South and Belvedere. But the older Wardecker is deceased now, unless they've taken him down. All up along the wall was old antiques, and he carried a very good line of clothing, and I guess, and then there was Dutry's shoe store. That was on the right-hand side. And I think, no, Freddie's not there anymore because he went to that one down on Pomfret Street. The last shoes that I got down there was down there at Pomfret Street.
Oh.
And he knew me. But, and then there was Castle's Lumber right beside him. I don't know if it's down there yet or not.
It's still around.
That might be where the shoe place went in. The shoe place is in there someplace. Yes, Carlisle was very, very active, and there was a lot of big stores down there. That Woolworths was a huge, huge store. It would not compare to Walmart, but it would pretty darn near as big.
What did you do for fun as a child?
What did
What did you do for fun?
What did you do for fun as when you were a little kid? What kinds of things did you do for fun?
Well, just worked at the store, and I made the payroll, so I got paid.
But when you were a child, what kinds
Oh.
of things did you do for fun as a child?
On the farm, we raised turkeys and chickens. And the turkeys had to be away from the chickens due to disease or something, but they were not together. And I guess I was probably 13 or their ways. And of course I wasn't out in the main road, I was in the farm. And when I would come home from school, Mom would, whatever I wanted to eat or change clothes, and then I'd loading up the feed and the water, and I could drive the darn whole it was made into a truck. And I could drive that over to the field and feed the turkeys, and then when I got older, Mom dressed them, and Dad killed them. I never killed any. I couldn't do that. And I helped Mama many a time do chickens and turkeys.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
I had a sister,
Okay.
and she was 7 years older than me. But she went and helped people with housework and such like, so she wasn't home and wasn't around to help. It was only me. Of course, I didn't dare drive out in the road or anything, but I could drive any place in the farm, and there was nothing there.
Is that what your parents did for a living, was raise turkeys and chickens?
We still had some, but not quite as many.
So, did your
There
father
was
work?
one year we had 160 turkeys, and that was too darn many.
So, does your father work in town, or
No, he was on the farm.
he was on the farm?
And that's the reason they were both getting up in years, and they had bought a small house in town. And then, of course, when we were married, Charles farmed just like Dad. I mean, in other words, it was a combination. And of course, I helped with the chickens, and I even milked cows.
How long did you stay on the farm? Did you and Charles keep the farm?
I was married in 42. We were there till we moved into town. It was on F Street, and they owned that one too. And where they moved was the one on Chronister's had an electric shower, and it was right across the street where the state health center is. Do you know where that is? On
On Lowther?
oh boy,
Or,
Pomfret. I guess it would be Pomfret Street.
Huh.
It was a little building right in this side of the Sentinel.
oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Well, that belonged to my dad and mother, because it was all one big field. And after Mom died, when the ice plant burnt, Mother took a heart attack, and she died that night in the hospital.
Mm.
And I saw the State Health Center wanted that little building. I don't know if it's there yet or not. I think there's another building in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I sold that lot off. And there was between that and one little house, and then the Sentinel. And Dad lived there, and that's where he died.
And you had moved
Found
to
him
F
dead in
Street?
bed, and I'll tell you, that was a shock. And Beadham's lumber mill was right across the street. You don't, neither one of you would remember that.
Mm-mm.
That was a great big lumber mill, and I mean it was big. And then next to it is that vacant lot. Yeah.
When you and Charles moved into town, did you sell the farm then? You and Charles sell the farm when you moved into town?
They sold the farm. Dad and Mom kept the farm.
Mm.
And C.O. Minnick was a real estate agent. And he wanted that farm because he thought they were going to build out that way. Well, they didn't. They come this way. But C.O. Minnick bought the farm, and he had his office on North Hanover Street. And it's this one now where Heidelberg and what's his name? Hannah, I think it is, Hanna. Okay, that's where C.O. Minnick had his office in that great big building on the corner. And next to that was Mount's Jewelers.
Okay. Yeah.
Boy, you're taking me back a long time. Yeah, Mount's Jewelers. It's the same one that's up on
Walnut
Oh,
Bottom.
shucks. Is up Rittner High,
On Walnut Bottom.
Walnut Bottom Road. And he's also down in Camp Hill, I think is his other place.
Mm-hmm.
Vaughn Mounts.
Did you attend a country school? Did you attend a country school?
No.
No.
Yes, I did. Excuse me. I did country school at Shippensburg, but I graduated when we moved to Carlisle and went to Carlisle High School and graduated in 1941. Am I right? Yeah, 1941.
You got married the next year. How did you meet Charles?
He worked on the Kruger Dairy Farm, which was joined Dad and Mom's farm. And it was the one that had the Kruger's Dairy. Do you remember that?
I don't, but I know of it.
Yeah, well, it was Norton Kruger. And they had their Franklin Street. And that's where we took our milk. Yep. Kruger's Dairy.
So you met Charles when you were taking the milk to the dairy?
He worked for Kruger's back on the farm, which joined Dad and Mom's. So. Whew, boy, you taking me back. But yes, Vaughn Mounts had, in fact, that's where my rings come from. He had a very, very nice jewelry store here in Carlisle. It would have been next to I guess he was the second or third building from the corner. Yes, I'd known him for a long, long time. And then when he sold out down there and went up to you say Walnut Bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was up there
Mm-hmm.
where I get my taxes done. And then he has one in Camp Hill, but he has expanded quite a bit. But he must be ready to retire.
Cree, what did you and Charles do for entertainment? Did you have friends that you got together with, or did you go to movies or church?
When you're on a
socials?
farm, you work. The only place we went was to church or the activities.
Okay.
I mean, when you're on a farm, you're tied down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the chicken house has burnt, the barn burnt, so I don't know. But Winston's have it now, Alan Winston,
Mm-hmm.
and they made it into a bed and breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to go out sometime and see it.
Yeah.
And we had a big, big yard to mow. Oh boy.
When did you move to this house? You were on F Street for a while, and then
Then we built here.
okay.
And Dad and Mom moved down on, oh boy,
Is
I
that
guess
north?
that's Pomfret.
That might, I think the Sentinel's up on North Street, maybe.
They moved.
Oh, that's true.
And that's when the ice plant burnt. And
Oh.
Dad called me and he said when she got awake, their bedroom was on the side of the ice plant, which they've really remodeled that now. But it used to be a small place. And that was where you didn't have your own deep freezes. You took everything down there, and they had built into, I guess you'd say, sections, and you bought whatever size you wanted. If you had a lot of meat and so on, you would buy a bigger one. And if you didn't have a lot, you bought a smaller one. And you could go in, you had the key to it, and you could go in and get your frozen things at any time they were open. And when that caught fire at night, it showed in Dad and Mom's house. And when Mom got awake, she thought their house was on fire. And she got up and made it to the kitchen chair. And that's when Dad called me, and he said, your mom is breathing heavy. She made it to the kitchen chair. Well, I never got dressed so quick in my life. Of course, Charles was here with the boys, so I could go. And I jumped in the car and went down, and I called a doctor, and he came down, and he said, take her to the hospital, and of course, she didn't make it. She took the heart attack right there. So after that, then Dad stayed there, and I'd go down and do his washing and ironing and bring it home and take food down. And took the boys to school, and when I went down one morning, he didn't answer the door, and I took my key and went in, and that was the biggest shock I ever had. But he slept away. The covers weren't moved, there was nothing. So.
Were you living up here by then, or were you living in this house by then, or were you in the other house?
No, we were still in an F Street.
Okay.
We built here in 1957.
Okay.
And those trees were planted in 1958.
So your boys grew up.
They're pretty well shot. I've had them trimmed several times, and I guess there's a lot of dead still on them, so. But they were in 1957.
When you built this house, were there very many houses on this?
There was none back here. This was all vacant land. And that was a barn over there where the ballet school is, by the way. And they had, there was a sheep over there, and there was, I can't think what else was over there. I think there was a lamb, and there was the little lamb and the big sheep. And I think they had a small horse over there too. But that was not the ballet school, and that was a farmhouse or farm over there. And then they made that Marcia and Sandy. Sandy was the oldest, and she taught overseas. And then they made that into a small, I guess you'd have called it a ballet school at that time. With just a few children over there. And he died. And then the mother lived up and they lived in that house up there in the corner. That big brick house. And Marcia took a liking to ballet, and she kept adding to it and adding to it. But now they're over on where Project Share is. You know where that, they'll ever have, I don't know what, they just added another room over there. But they have most of their over there now, but the big shots is over here this morning from New York and so on. They're having what, a big recital down in Harrisburg or someplace. So, but yeah, she still has over here, but like I said, they're over Project Share now. It's the same one, by the way, that has it.
Yeah.
Marcia. Neither one of them was ever married.
Well, I'm wondering, what was it? You said you had boys. What was it like raising children in Carlisle? Was it different than when you were growing up?
I don't know. Carlisle has changed so that I probably wouldn't know if I get down there now. So.
But what about when you were raising your kids?
I was here then.
Yeah.
I was very active in PTA and such, like when they called it that.
Mm-hmm.
When my kids were in school, I was very active. I didn't miss a PTA either.
Was that, so did they attend the like Bel Air or Lamberton?
My dad worked as janitor. I think they called it the Hamilton then,
Oh, okay.
out there by the fairgrounds. I think they called that in the Hamilton at that time. They've changed the names of all the schools, but this was very small over here. But like I said, I didn't miss any PTAs. Charles worked at the Maslin's, but I went to the PTAs and was very active. And when they went on those bus trips, I always went along. I was one of the chaperones.
Did they do any extracurricular like activities or sports?
Some, but not like they do now. But no, I was very active. In fact, Al Spears, my youngest one, had him in 2 different classes. And I was warned when I went to PTA, I was supposed to get on the front row. And I said, his name's Richard, we call him Dick. I said, why do I have to get on the front row? He said, Mom, I'm telling you to get in the front row. That's all I'm telling you. Well, you know how, if you ever talk to him, how he speaks so low. And when we'd come out from the class, I couldn't hear what he said. What did he tell us? I never said a word. My son told me to get in the front row.
Good advice.
And from that day on, Al still comes here to visit me often, but he talks so slow that you could, and soft that you couldn't understand him. So Dick told me in his 2 classes I was to get in the front row. So that's how long I've known Dick, or known Al.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that Charles worked at Maslin's. What did he do there?
I worked there for a little while too.
Well, what did you do at Maslin's?
When they made the tarps for the war and the ones for the rain, that was what. And I worked with the other nationality, I guess you would call them. Some of them was pretty darn hard to understand and to get them to do what you wanted them to do too. They were supposed to put it up on, and then you sewed it. It was when you made the, for the men that was in the service.
The tents. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I worked there one winter. I mean, I couldn't keep it up. But Charles was there for, oh boy, 30-some years. And my youngest son, Dick, was there for 37 years. So, till they shut down. He was there till they shut down. He was a lift truck operator, and he had a license to drive. So.
Now, I know Maslin's used to have a lot of like family activities. Did you go to like Hershey Park or anything like that?
I didn't. They went there for their picnic. To Hershey Park for their picnic, and that was about all, because I'm telling you, it was work.
Yeah.
Because they made the yarn, and what else did they make? Tarps. They were pretty general. Now it's all tore down. And they say they're going to build houses and probably a hotel and restaurant out there. So, but the ones that has the cars is still going to keep the lot across there for parking. They had, when they were still there, they kept that lot, and the employees had to park on down further. So it's been used by the car lot for a long time.
Well, is there anything else that you want to mention, or something I should have asked but haven't?
No, I just like to see Carlisle downtown more vitalized than what it is. So many of them have left because there was no business, I guess, is the reason. I guess Wardecker's still down there. He is. I knew both of them. And that's where I went to buy my kids' clothes.
Didn't Dutchery's used to have a little, like a kid store? Did your kids use that?
Yes. It wasn't very big, but the kids could go in that. But it was mainly the big store, the big Dutchery's shoe store. And you went in the back. And they had shoe repair back there some too. Yeah, Fred was back there. I knew Fred. In fact, that was the only clothing store in Carlisle as far as I know.
Wasn't there Cronenberg's?
Oh, God, I forgot about them. Yes, they were up on, across the courthouse.
Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't used as much as Wardeckers. Wardeckers was more of a family building, and for people to go there and buy.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Things do change.
Yes, they do.
And I see it more than what you see it because you haven't got as far along yet.
No, I haven't. Well, thank you so much for talking with Mary Jane and I today. I've learned quite a bit, so.
I could give you a lot more too.
Well, yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time, though.
Yeah, I didn't feel too good this morning, and I just simply sat down. I didn't do anything except take the newspaper. And that's another thing you would be interested in. All my newspapers, all my friends, brings them here and puts them in the garage.
Mm.
I have a farmer. You go up the Walnut Bottom Road to where you turn to go back to Bloserville.
Mm-hmm.
He's back in there someplace. And he gets all my newspapers, my leaves, and everything, and puts them on his farm. And he shreds the newspapers. I have a couple of people that has business, and they have them shredded when they bring them.
Mm-hmm.
But he brings his big truck and gets all those newspapers and takes them home to his barn and shreds them. His wife got him a big shredder last year for Christmas. And he shreds them and puts them on the farm and for his steers in his stock.
Mm.
So none of it goes in the water or anything like that. And I had 22 bags of leaves I raked last year. And I said to him, he said, I want them leaves. They were in big plastic bags. And he took all them.
Mm.
And he puts them out on the farm. So none of the neighbors or none of mine or anybody's newspapers goes in the water or anything. I guess you didn't know it. It was, 3 weeks ago. I had to go buy a bunch of bottled water because there was some kind of chemicals in some of North Middleton. This road was one of them, North Street, Louder Street. There was about 5 or 6 different streets that had contamination in the water, and they announced it on the radio and everything. So my friend at church went and bought bottled water so that we had to boil it for a minute and then let it cool to drink it or to cook with it, even wash dishes.
Mm.
So that was from Thursday till, I think they got it fixed up by Saturday then. So I've got a bunch of bottled water here.
It'll come in handy for the next time it happens.
Yep. Because you never know when it's going to happen, I'll tell you. with all the chemicals from the barracks, they say, is a big contender.
Mm.
So, yeah. And back here, oh man, that used to be all farmland, and now it's all houses, houses, houses. And this went back of me. The man that lived over here died a couple weeks ago. And the sale is November 18th, I think it is. And they want to put 69 houses back here. They would have to be set on top of one another to put 69.
Mm.
Because that is nothing but rocks back there. So, maybe I won't live to see it, I don't know.
Mm.
I still can't see how they could get 69 unless it's do like over here on Newville Road. Them built right,
Townhouses.
yeah, right tight together.
Mm.
So,
Well, again, well, thank you again for speaking today and for agreeing to be interviewed. It's been great.
well, if you don't know anything more about old Carlisle, let me know.
I will.